Welcome to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm Rebecca, your host, and together we'll explore the spirit of beauty, how beauty invites new possibilities, enlivens us to inhabit our innate creativity, and connects us more deeply with ourselves and with each other. We'll have conversations and share reflections that invite you into a frequency of gentleness, truth, and mystery. I'm so glad you're here. If you find the Liberating Beauty Podcast meaningful, please consider supporting our work. To donate, follow the link in the show notes to the Together in Beauty website, home to this podcast, along with other offerings to accompany you on your journey of spiritual becoming. Please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast wherever you listen. And as always, thank you for your support and for being here with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. I'm really glad to have you here with me today as I do a little bit of like a double dip on a topic that I talked about several episodes again called The Rules Are Made Up Anyway. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, I suggest you go back and listen to it first, because I realized afterward, and really just honestly in the last couple of days, I was like, oh, there's more there and I don't know what it is. And it just dropped like into my consciousness this morning. And I'm like, okay, I need a double dip. I need to take two on this idea of the rules being made up and what we do about that and how we repattern our lives. No big deal. So if I can, I want to go back to this idea of where this came from. And what I was talking about in The Rules Are Made Up Anyway is there was this liberatory moment that I experienced and have experienced for years of thinking of, there are all these rules that we're told, and it's almost like it's this big game. And if we're not aware of the fact that so much of how our lives are designed have been, in some sense, made up, everything from our policies to cultural and communal ways of being are all predicated on rules that have been made up. And as I said in that episode, this isn't about doing away with all the rules. We need some consensual reality. I mentioned, like, you want people to know that when there's a red light, we stop our cars. If we didn't know that, we didn't agree to it, well, we would probably have a lot of collisions. The thing is, there are so many unspoken rules that without awareness of them, it can feel like we're like always trapped. And I will say, especially as an autistic person, where so many of the implicit rules are not always obvious to me, this idea of there being all these rules is compounded. So I want to go further into the idea of the rules. Once we get, once our awareness increases, we realize, okay, some of these are arbitrary. We can make up new rules. Here's where I want to go deeper. Here's the thing that kind of dropped today, which was, okay, great. We can make up new rules. We've been told that work needs to look a certain way. For example, like we need to go to the office. We need to work 9 to 5. Well, I think we learned through COVID that that's not true. And I'll just say for myself, thank goodness, because office work for me was exhausting in ways that I didn't even know was possible, and I didn't understand why. And as soon as I started working remotely, the universe opened up in a different way. I realized I could do I could spend half the amount of time and do twice as much work when I could do it in my own space. But that didn't just suddenly mean that I felt at ease in my life just because one of these invisible rules that we all agreed upon, like at the time, like you need to go into work 9 to 5 and you need to work in an office, just because that rule was broken or shifted to, oh, actually you can work remotely and as long as your work gets done, you can work wherever you want. That didn't mean like my life suddenly felt drastically different. And that is where I realized today, I thought, oh, this is it. This is the piece where I didn't explore and I want to go deeper, which is we can make up all of the new rules We can repattern all the rules. But if we bring the same consciousness to those new rules, we're still playing the old game, right? We can build all the programs on our computer, but if they're still running on the same outdated operating system, it's just like new rules, different outfits. So what do we do then? I guess that's the question. What do we do when we realize that, okay, step one, we realize there are these rules that are operating. They're made up. New rules are possible. However, we may still feel the same. And I have reckoned with this feeling for years because I thought, well, I've started my own organizations. I've been part of things I've created. I don't have bosses. All of the constraints of the way I work went away, and I'm still tired all of the time. So what's happening? Well, in theory, I should have all of the freedom, all the agency, all the rest, all of the things, and I'm still exhausted. What's happening? And then I realized it's like, this isn't something I can think my way through or analyze or optimize. This isn't that kind of game, because actually it's not a game at all. It's about a more fundamental knowing, a knowingness that our true liberation requires a coming home to our original, our ancient, an energetic blueprint that is a kind of somatic code. That's the new operating system, which actually isn't new. It's the oldest operating system available, which fundamentally changes the way we are, no matter what we are doing, no matter what rules have been agreed upon. It is a different quality of being. It is a different trust. It is a different appreciation in how it is that we show up, no matter what is going on in the world. And it's hard for me to put in words how it is that what I've just said has landed differently today than it had landed even a couple weeks ago, because I know I've probably said similar things on this podcast, and I've certainly said similar things to myself. But when there is a freedom to inhabit any rule, any state, any encounter from our original self, from this invisible somatic code, literally everything changes. The tricky thing is that is not something that we can intellectually learn our way into. Because I've asked myself, well, what would it feel like to be me in the world doing my thing if I wasn't engaging the way the world told me that I needed to? And I kind of blanked on it. Like, well, what would that even mean? What would that look like? So today I just want to share a few different aspects of this somatic code that are starting to kind of slowly almost like reveal themselves, if I can say it that way, to me, about the ways that we shift back into this somatic way of being and knowing that without having to do anything changes how we orient to every rule. And it starts with this shift from hypervigilance, which is always protecting against something, of somehow being found out. It's about fear, it's about legitimacy, to a deep internal anchoring in, I know who I am. So when we're working from this kind of legacy code of the matrix, it looks like constantly scanning our environment or our mental to-do list to evaluate if it's safe to drop our guard. From the somatic code, it's really honestly, just it's going back to the body very slowly, physically dropping our weight into our body, softening the body, and even if it's a level of imagination, imagining that unshakable anchor in our own skin and allowing the world to be completely unsatisfied when we do that. Taking that pause in the middle of a meeting, for example, when there's an expectation that you have some sexy or cute or smart answer, and saying, how does this feel? How does this question feel? How does this situation feel? And answering from that place. The second thing is a shift from adrenaline and urgency to a much more spacious pacing. The old code would have us living from this kind of low grade fight or flight, treating literally everything as an emergency and this burning demand. And I was just joking with my friends the other day that I take really seriously when someone calls something an emergency, because I know the difference between what is a real emergency and what is a kind of a manufactured emergency. The joke I am saying is I'm not that type of doctor. I'm not a brain surgeon. Nobody is going to live or die based on how quickly I respond to an email. And yet I still feel that, that pulse, that pull, that, oh my gosh, I need to get back to them ASAP because fill in the blank. Like, I won't be valuable, I won't be legitimate if I don't produce and produce fast. To shift into the somatic code to be literally the biological decision and the refusal to rush when actually there is no emergency, right? It's intentionally elongating that transition. And you might even just start by elongating how much the pause, when you get an email, for example, and when you respond, by 10%. Like, you don't have to make these kind of somatic shifts and the actions after them really fast. But even by 10%, that creating that spaciousness makes a difference. The third one of these shifts is about moving from a kind of transactional worth to a relational way of being. In the old code, it's about treating your mind and your body like they're this factory that you are constantly trying to optimize, you are trying to improve, and you are really working toward maximum creative yield, as if you are a product. When we return to our somatic code, when we return to our nature, we are treating our own bodies and our nervous systems and our spirits like living, breathing partners, because they are. And we're moving away from that self-management model into a real relationship with ourselves, with our natural genius, our natural beauty. And honestly, I'm just feeling this feeling of the somatic code. Even as I talk about it, it feels so enlivening. It feels like I'm just like trying to physically tune into what it feels like. There's a certain buoyancy about it. That's a good way to describe it. Like it's weird. It's a floating, but there's a groundedness to it, like, oh, I can rest in the knowingness that all of these rules, all of these conditions are out there, and I'm aware of them. Like, I'm not floating off in space, I'm not disconnected from reality, that I don't have to engage them in the same way anymore. So how do then we integrate that knowingness, that buoyancy, especially when our nervous systems have been so, and I'll speak for myself, like so linked and so hyper vigilant, but forever. I don't remember a time before that state of hypervigilance, to the extent where it becomes easy to think that that state of hypervigilance is who we are. I don't remember that, but I do trust that I was not born that way. And I look at my kids who are not that way and know that they are not different than me, that I am not different than them. And there was a time where I had not forgotten that hypervigilance is not who I am. And so there's this moment then, the remembering of ourselves, not as how we've been conditioned to be, but as vehicles for this much more ancient somatic code. And the old systems in us will panic when we remember, to a certain sense, and may try to sound alarms like, this is a risk, this is a risk. And I want to encourage the possibility that the biggest risk is to not listen to this memory of something else that we are, a truer, more ancient knowledge, this somatic code that says, look, we may be getting some feedback from our bodies that this is scary, and it's okay, right? When that urgency screams to us, the best thing we can do is to just sit still for just a moment and breathe through it and let that alarm ring, do that in a place where you feel safe, and without jumping to fix it, without jumping to intellectualize it, to sit with it. And just, again, like I mentioned, how, wait a little bit longer to respond to an email, like sit a little bit longer in that discomfort before you immediately try to, distract yourself or watch TV or whatever it is that you do to zone out. Stay with it just a little bit longer, build a little bit more endurance, spaciousness in your body, like that little microdose of physical safety to say, I'm allowing in this new reality that is not constantly responding to false sense of urgency and compliance, and saying, I am allowing in a new way of being. I may not even know what that new way of being is yet, but you don't have to go there. It's not about what is it. It's allowing who it is that you are to be present and not always a reaction or response to something else. So I just want to reiterate what a shift it is to go from an intellectual knowingness that rules are largely made up. We have opportunities to make new rules, and the felt sense of, wow, even new rules ultimately leave me feeling the same in my day-to-day if I'm not operating from a somatic way of being, a place of being that is true to who I am. And figuring out who we are underneath all the conditioning is extremely slow and beautiful work. A couple years ago, when I really started feeling like my work right now is to learn the language of the body, to learn how the body speaks, that annoyed me. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? I'd been trained for so long to use the most precise and concise and research-backed language, that to say, it's not about how I conceptually think about something or articulate it, but how does it feel to know something in my body? Like that it felt like a slap in the face to all of that work that I had done, which is silly because these things are not mutually exclusive. I can still really appreciate a sharp mind and also appreciate a spaciousness in my body, but that's almost like, it's exactly what I'm talking about. My body started panicking of like, oh my gosh, if I legitimize taking a few minutes to physically feel and ask myself, how's my body feel in this moment? Like that was what caused that feeling of panic in me. So I am saying everything here with a lot of compassion because I actually think it's really hard, even to take 5 seconds and to believe that what we might find in those 5 seconds in our bodies matters, and that there's some truth in it that is waiting to reveal itself once we are willing to feel it. I think it's revolutionary in its simplicity and eloquence. It's the most ancient thing. How does this feel? How does it feel to be me in this moment? And am I taking seriously my somatic experience of this moment? So I'll leave you with this idea as we are moving on into the week, which is that we don't repattern our lives by just rewriting our rules or the rules we've been handed. We really do change them by allowing these old operating systems, let them glitch, allow ourselves to linger in that discomfort of that glitching just a little more, and physically choose a different pace anyway. This kind of liberation, as I've said, is extremely slow, and there's a kind of somatic protesting that comes into play, which is about protesting about the urgency of the world. So I would recommend, if there's anything to put into practice for this week, it's just pick one transition point from today, whether that's, we've talked about slowing down, how quickly you respond to people. Maybe it's somebody who sent you a text and you don't really want to respond to them, but you feel like you have to. Wait longer. Wait until you find the words that feel true. Maybe someone's asked you to go somewhere that you don't want to. Spend more time before you just immediately say yes, or figure out how it is that you want to say no in a place that feels honoring to you. And I'd say you can start, if you want to think about, where do I want to put something into practice? Ask yourself, where in your life have you successfully changed, quote unquote, the rules, but you're still bringing that same energy to how you live them out? And what would it be like to let that old system just glitch for a while and return to the somatic code instead? Well, I really appreciate you tuning back in, and as I've gone deeper into what's possible when we not only shift the rules, but we say we are going to bring forward the new reality of being from this somatic code of our own knowingness, even if we're not sure what it is yet, and we're going to allow that to put into motion a new consciousness, a new way of being. That's the most exciting thing for me, from that place of not knowing, putting forward the new possibility that we are free, that we are full, that we are the, what's that, the line? We are the ones we've been waiting for. So until next week, may you be well. Thank you for listening to the Liberating Beauty Podcast. To learn more about the podcast, my work, and how I can support you on your journey of spiritual becoming, head over to the Together in Beauty website or email me at rebecca@together-in-beauty.com. It's an honor to accompany you on the journey. A huge thank you to our multi-talented producer and co-creative director, Mapumba Cilombo. To learn more about Mapumba's work as a producer, sound engineer, and musician, check out the show notes for a link to his website at mapumbamusic.com. And as always, many thanks to you, our listeners. None of this would be possible without the energy, encouragement, and vitality that you reflect back to us each week. Until next time, may you walk in beauty.